Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Hillsborough County Diversity Advisory Council meeting for June 2020. We welcome you, and as always, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm going to ask that we start with that first before we get into our agenda. Please stand for the pledge. Adjust your cameras as you need to, if you are able to stand. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you. Virtual standing for the pledge is very difficult, but I appreciate you bearing with me. So thank you so much for joining us today, and for everyone who is also participating virtually and watching online with us. We are honored to take this time to move forward. Not met in several months as a council due to COVID and the inability to meet face to face. So this is the first time that we're actually having a virtual meeting. So the meeting is called to order, and we are going to start with public comment. Do we have our Erin Ireland available to participate in the public comment, or should I be reading the comments? I do not see Erin Ireland on the call.
She is not participating. You would have to read that out loud.
Would read it? Okay, perfect. So the public comment we have is from Erin Ireland.
I went to high school with her.
Oh, wonderful. And Erin, thank you for your public comment. So what Erin wants to share is in regards to police reform. Reviewing the 2020-2021 Hillsborough budget plan, we increased the budget to $30 million for the sheriff to add 60 new police officers in 2020. Our goal is to increase by another $20 million for 2021. What do we plan on spending this money on? With everything going on, how can we allocate this money to areas that will encourage racial justice, like education or social work? I absolutely speak in favor of defunding the police department and reallocating funds to education, social work, mental health, etc. I'd love suggestions on how to do this if you are the right avenue to provide that. My proposal is to write to our commissioners to consider a bill that holds police accountable for their actions leading up to using a deadly force, to consider a bill that supports police training on racial and identity profiling and implicit bias, and to consider a bill that encourages fair police contracts that remove barriers to effective misconduct investigations and civilian oversight, and ensures financial accountability for departments. In regards to other potential areas of reform, what are we currently doing as a local government to fight for systemic racial justice? What are actions we can take as members of this community to fight for systemic racial justice as well? And Erin has thanked us and says, as a member of this community, she has full faith that we will evaluate and fight for racial justice. Again, that is from citizen Erin Ireland. At this time, we have no additional public comments, so we will move forward with the agenda. Considering if there is an opportunity and we do want to discuss that further, we can do that when we get into that right time. Again, staff, no additional public comment, correct? That's the only one I heard.
That's all I had.
Okay.
Correct.
So then moving forward with new business. And again, I want to make sure I identify myself, Sabrina Griffith, Chair of the Diversity Advisory Council. So for our new business, hopefully everyone's been able to review the agenda, and we want to get right into it. We have a couple things that I was hoping, since we have not been in the same space and had the opportunity to talk over the past couple of months, just to check in with the various identity group representatives on a couple of different things. First thing being COVID-19 in our communities. Does anyone have anything on behalf of their identity group that they want to share in relation to the COVID-19 crisis and the things that we've been dealing with as a community over the past couple of months? Okay. I see a few hands. That Sheffy?
Yes, this is Debbie Crockett. I can't figure out how to change the name on that. Sorry.
What's happening? Okay. Hello, Debbie. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Well, so I'd like to share a statement from the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association that has been signed off on by our local Asian Pacific American Bar Association of Tampa Bay, specifically as to two things. The first, and I know it's broad as to COVID-19, so first as to COVID-19. In particular, you may have heard in the news, and maybe this isn't getting as much press now because of what's going on with the protests, but before that, you may have been seen in the news where Asian Americans have been targeted by others because of their ethnicity as being people who may be infected with COVID-19 and people who may be spreading COVID-19 and those types of things. Quite frankly, I haven't heard from any of my friends or colleagues locally in the Tampa Bay area, luckily, knock on wood, that they have faced any such discrimination or prejudice. But I thought maybe I could just read the statement from the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association that was also signed off by the Tampa Bay Asian Pacific American Bar. And it's a short statement that says, "The coronavirus is creating challenges for our country, our communities, and each one of us. Unfortunately, some communities like the Asian American and Pacific Islander community, they are facing the added problem of rising racism and bigotry. Using racist terms like, quote, Chinese virus and, quote, Wuhan virus to describe the coronavirus and COVID-19 is inaccurate and unacceptable. Treating others differently, bullying, and avoiding people and their businesses because they are Asian or Pacific Islanders is unacceptable. This disease does not discriminate. Discrimination distracts from the problem before us and only perpetuates unfounded stereotypes. We cannot allow racism to rise as we come together to take on this challenge. As leaders of bar associations across the nation, we are speaking out against hate and bias. We are calling for everyone to focus on unity and denounce anti-Asian attacks, xenophobia, and racist language. We must stand together. We must stand together against hate." So that is the statement that was put out again by the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association in response to the discriminatory practices that Asian Americans across the country have been experiencing because of COVID-19. Particularly, you may have seen on the subway in New York City. It's not limited to just what's happening in California, but all parts of the country. And again, luckily, I have no information anecdotally about anything that has happened in the Tampa Bay area, but I thought this would be a good place to share this information. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you. Do we have any additional comment on the impact of COVID-19 in our communities?
Thanks, Debbie, for sharing the statement from the Bar Association. And actually, I have been talking to people in Korean community, and I think I shared that reflection last meeting, but many of my friends and people in the community are afraid really going out to be associated with being Asian. So, it's more implicit. Debbie said, we may not have explicit, instance, but people implicitly are afraid of being targeted for that, like a stigmatized. So I just want to share that sentiment and reflections from the community, Asian community.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Matthew Janeski, You can make sure that you say your name before your statement.
Hi, everyone. Matthew Janeski, Vice Chair of Diversity Action Diversity Advisory Council. So I just want to talk about the LGBTQ community in relation to coronavirus. And the Human Rights Campaign Foundation put out a really short but informative document on how the community is being impacted by coronavirus economically, socially, health-wise. And I'll send this over to Zuleika to send to everyone so you can read it at your leisure. But I'll just point out the few of the major points of this. And so the first part breaks it down into economic-wise. LGBTQ people are more likely to have become unemployed from the coronavirus closures than straight and cisgender people. About 40% of our community works in affected industries such as restaurants and food services, retail, hospitals, K-12 education. And this has a disproportionate impact because LGBTQ people are typically poorer than our heterosexual and cisgender counterparts. About 1 in 5 LGBTQ people lives in poverty compared to 16% of straight cisgender people who live in poverty. And so this, when you're unemployed and then when you're living in poverty, that, kind of really sets you back and negatively affects your ability to cope with, everything that's happening. And that poverty plays into, healthcare coverage gaps. About 17% of LGBTQ adults do not have access to health insurance compared to only 12% of non-LGBT people. And so when you're looking at going to the hospital because you're sick, that lack of health insurance can be a negative obstacle and a difficulty in accessing healthcare. And which I thought was, super interesting. And something that I didn't know is that there's some underlying health issues with the LGBT community itself. So for instance, 37% of LGBTQ people smoke every day compared to only 27% of non-LGBTQ people. And 21% of LGBTQ adults have asthma compared to only 14% of non-LGBTQ people. And I'm sure many of us know on here that smoking and asthma are pre-existing conditions that can make someone more susceptible to coronavirus. So LGBTQ people are more at risk from this. And this also includes people with within the community with HIV and AIDS and which are autoimmune diseases that affects our immune systems and makes us more vulnerable to coronavirus. And another big thing that I really wanted to bring up that I thought was important to talk about, especially, with my generation, my demographic, with LGBTQ youth, we're not much right now, but toward the end in spring, when a lot of universities were closing down, you had a lot of students who were going and being sent home back to their families. And a lot of these LGBTQ kids were being sent back to houses where they felt unsafe and they were either being abused or neglected, or their families were not supportive of them. So it put a bigger pressure and strain on our community in trying to care for these kids who found, a safe haven in their university and everything, and the support system that was provided. And so I think that's something that was, these are just a few things that I want to talk about really quickly. And so I can send this over. It's only about like 6-7 pages, but it has a whole bunch of good information on the community, a bunch of statistics, and, hopefully can help enlighten you all with things that are affecting our community.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Zuleika, did you have something?
Yes, I was going to say if Ms. Crockett can also send me the document that she read out. So if you have anything, if you could just send it to me so that I can log it with, today's meeting. That would be it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Ms. Minatello, I saw that your hand was up, but you took it back down. Did you have something? Did you want to say something? You're on mute, so you can unmute yourself. Okay.
Am I on now?
Now we can hear you.
Okay.
Make sure you say your name first.
This is Marshal Min. The disability community is also undergoing a lot of issues from COVID. There's group homes where COVID is rampant. There's personal care attendants that are at issue and can't come to work with the people they need to. There's also transportation issues now because of the fact that they can't be taken from one place to another when they need to because of the bus drivers not being able to do so. And just in general, the population is undergoing a huge amount of very quiet, under the radar type of issues altogether. There's I don't have any complete paperwork on it, but I've been speaking to a lot of people in the community, and they are petrified. They don't know. Some of them are not being able to be fed and things of that nature because their caregivers can't come in for one reason or another. And so the disability community has issues as well. And I'm sure that if we look at almost every kind of community, there's issues within those communities. I have a 7-year-old grandson who is not going to school and is sitting in a house all by himself with his mom with nothing to do except to cause aggravation with his mother and learn. I mean, he's finished school now. And so, I mean, I'm sure, I'm just saying that there's issues wherever you go. I think the whole thing needs to be looked at as a whole, and we need to find ways to work together in all different areas of whatever issues come up for people. I'm old and I have issues as well, as far as I had to try to get people to shop for me and things of that nature. But again, it's just a situation. But the disability community is finding it really tough right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. And I think we can all agree that, as Ms. Minatello said, that minoritized communities are disproportionately affected by things like this. So there are a lot of conversations that our individual communities and identity groups are having right now regarding this particular crisis and how we can support each other better. But I do appreciate everyone sharing, because I think it is something that we need to be aware of. Sometimes you only know about the challenges in your own identity group. Zuleika, did you have something else?
I had my hand up. I don't know.
No, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You were pulling your hand down, Zuleika?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And Norma Hemming?
Yes, thank you. My name is Norma Hemming. I'm representing Northern and Southern Europe. The people that I've talked to, mostly also working with the German consulate, were people who are experiencing travel delays, inability to return to the country. So we've been dealing with immigration issues, and also, the people that called into my office were mostly struck with incredulity, I guess is the word, or they couldn't believe how science was not followed in this country. We even had from some countries alerts to their students to go home. And I believe it was Norway, come home to Norway, because the health system in the United States they're not taking science seriously, and we really want you to survive, which has also had a negative impact on investment, had a negative impact on the students. So it's not so much that the community itself, of course, not being able to travel is an issue for you personally, but this is also going to have a huge economic impact, I believe, on our state and our county. Visas have been completely eradicated. Family immigration is dead, according to the most recent presidential proclamations. So if I'm a U.S. citizen, naturalized, I cannot sponsor my mother anymore, because of the President Trump's proclamations. He's now going after temporary visas that companies that settle in the United States need to get started, to bring, some of their trusted employees over here to get started and then start the hiring process, because the net gain of jobs to the United States has always been outweighed by the jobs that actually did go to foreign nationals. So, that's not something that's only for Europeans, but we see also through the German American Chamber, the German consulate, a drop in visitors, obviously, and then of course flights being canceled don't help. And of course, a lot of the people who were here during the season now, which has started, were elderly. And then, they come to visit relatives or something for the winter and bring a certain number of doses of their medication with them and, running out. So we've had those kinds of issues, and thankfully they all made it home. And so far that they're not ongoing issues, but that's what I had been dealing with the Europeans.
Thank you very much for sharing. Okay. Is there anything else on the COVID-19 conversation before we move forward? Yes, Mr. Abadi.
Jamal Abadi, I hold the Middle Eastern seat, and I'm just going to share this only because I believe it affects, or this has been affecting all of our communities, not just my community, but the business sector, where in my career, what I do, I'm in real estate, so I've seen this from all different facets. The commercial industry has been, as everyone knows, has been affected, especially the retail. The office industry, and they are saying that the office industry, office parks, they're anticipating that not only will it be affected short term, but they're anticipating with the Zoom and WebEx boom, they're anticipating it's going to be affected long term as well. But it was amazing that just in 2 months, restaurants, hospitality industry, anything within shopping centers or retail, it's amazing just in a few weeks how we've seen major chains across the nation shut down. So the mom and pop shops that I'm sure our various communities experienced, they've been affected dramatically. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. So if there's nothing else, we will move forward to the next item in new business, the discussion on injustice in our community. So we know that I've chuckled at the Jumanji references of everything that is going on in 2020. There's been a lot going on and impacting people, and COVID hit us hard, but most recently, there have been conversations, as we heard from our public comment, of policing and what that looks like and concerns about that. And then, of course, racial relations. So I wanted to see kind of where everyone was, especially on behalf of your various identity groups and your communities, about what is going on right now and has been happening most recently in our area and in our nation. If you can take your hand down if it's still up and you don't have anything. Okay. Mr. Perry.
I guess I had to unmute myself. I was having some problems trying to get in. Just kind of lost my train of thought. Right now, I'm at large. This is Marshal Perry. One of the things that I'm kind of proud of is the past for my church. Our church, when you walk in the doors, looks as though it's an African-American church, but it's not. It's very multicultural. A lot of West Indian representation, African, also white representatives. The pastor has started on Thursdays having streaming, talking about the issues of race. So I'm proud of him for stepping up and making sure to engage in conversation. and I saw him on Thursday at a white pastor. We're having a real conversation. So from that standpoint, to see that folks are starting to have real conversation. A fellow veteran of mine, and then I'll close with this, happens to be a white gentleman. We happen to both be from the great state of Pennsylvania. Contacted me because he wanted to know what he could do, and he was a little afraid about going out. And I had a responsibility, so what I did is I shared some information that had come to me, and he felt much more comfortable about being able to let folks know that he's supportive of Black Lives Matter, and just wanted to get out there and be a support. So I encouraged him and gave him some ways of connecting with different vehicles that we found. That's all I wanted to share. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Norma Hemming?
Yes, thank you. From the perspective of a white person, and also through my civil rights work with CARE, we're getting a lot of questions on what can allies do, because and I think some of us are more recently coming to the conclusion that what our Black brothers and sisters have been telling us all these years is actually true, and oh my God, so please, we're not going to get it right away, and I beg for forgiveness if I offend anyone, but we, those people that want to contribute, what do they do? And that's the question that I get. What can we do? What can I do? In I guess my answer to that has been, try to show up and support. But I think that's actually a discussion that I think we as a diversity council can have, because that will help build bridges for the community. What can we do? What can be done? What now? I was watching last night the first segment of the Oprah show, which was really interesting. It gave some really good impulses. But I think that's where, the step from feeling completely overwhelmed and unable to contribute, or at least feeling like, what can I do? I'm just one person, or nothing I can do matters, or they don't want me, or how can I contribute? Then I think that's something that I really would like to see us tackle. We are at the Council on American Islamic Relations. We're starting more. We went completely online, which is where my job is. We went completely online and have discussions about interfaith, treatment of ethnic issues on an interfaith basis. But the allyship element, I think, it really needs to be addressed in a way that is productive. And also, one of the things that I really don't want to have happen is that the next news cycle overtakes this issue, and all of a sudden we're talking about something else again. Then we're going to be back, and I feel like, when I grew up in Germany, we were taught, gospel songs as American music. We were taught that Martin Luther King had solved all the race problems and everything was fine. And that's kind of how also I came to this country, with that understanding, or that preconceived notion, I guess. And I think we are fighting it now. I mean, to me, it's like, it's no different when I see the pictures of the police throwing, what they call chemical eye irritants that are delivered in gas form, but it's not tear gas. I look at the old pictures in the 60s from the demonstrations, and to me, it's like there's hardly any difference. So I think I would actually put it to everyone. What can we do? Where do we go from now? And maybe as a council, we can be the catalyst for Hillsborough County to kind of chart that in a way. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I do want us to come back to that conversation and that question. I think that's the next item on the agenda, for us to talk about our vision and our goals and what are we going to do. I do agree that it appears that in the news cycle, we have a short attention span. And I was in a store recently in the past 2 weeks, and normally, I tell people be safe, especially with everything that's going on with COVID-19. And the person responded and said, yeah, you too. And really thinking about what's going on right now in the community. And then I said, wait, do we still have COVID going on? Okay, whatever it is, because we really stopped talking about it as much. I mean, obviously, professionally, I still have to worry about it, working with the university students, but still, people really stopped focusing on it as much, and it's still an issue. And again, if we're comparing this to a game or something like Jumanji, and we're getting to level 6, is there going to be something next? We don't want to lose this momentum and having these conversations. I know Mr. Coleman has shared with us before, and we've discussed potentially doing some implicit bias training for our council to make sure that we're all on the same page with speaking the same language, having the same understanding of this, and definitely think we can talk about that some more and see what we need. Mr. Ramos?
Yes, thank you. Hello. This is Lesstm Ramos. I am representing the LGBTQ community. So I wanted to make a statement. With everything that's been going on, obviously, it's clear that we have a long way to go in terms of changing the way the community looks at racial, marginalized communities such as the Black community, the gay community, etc. But more so, a lot of the conversations that we hear today is, specifically about Black community and the gay community, which, of course, that's what we're seeing a lot about here today. But what I want to be more specific on is on the Black and brown transgendered community that we tend to overmiss. And that's one population I believe that, especially here in our city, in our community within Hillsborough County, is overlooked a lot of times. And so I'm wanting and hoping within time, as this is obviously my first official piece that I'm speaking on, but I want and I would like to actually bring that more to attention and shine the light on that area where, Black and brown transgendered individuals who live in Hillsborough County are not, targeted, and who also feels that they are a part of the community just like everyone else. So thank you. I'll take that back.
Thank you very much. Marshal Minatello, did you have your hand up for this one as well?
Yes, I did.
Thank you very much.
2 things. Number one, again, the disabled community, the disabled Black people are targeted as much as, or more so than anyone else. So that's an issue. As a matter of fact, I had spoken to an attorney I know who has a son who is severely autistic, and she's Black, and he's Black, and she's terrified that if he's ever in a place where the police are there and she's not, and he might do, say, or act out in a certain way, that they will look at him even more prejudiciously because he's Black, as well as the fact that he's disabled. So I think there needs to be some kind of disability training also for people so that they understand when they come on an autistic person or a person who's got some other issues, that needs to be handled in a different way. That's part of the thing. But what I was really, the thing that I had my hand up about was more the fact that we did have that summit that I've mentioned a number of times, and I know it was in a better there wasn't the hostilities and stuff going on, but we were able, by that summit, we brought together people of all different kinds, from different nationalities to different ways of being and so forth. And we had this incredible meeting, which had at that point gotten together, and we had at least 5 or 6 things that we could have worked on to make a better community. And unfortunately, things changed with the council and so forth. And I don't even know where the statistics are, because we did a whole bunch of statistics and so forth. And we were able to come up with some thoughts I do think that if we could do something where we could bring together people of all different kinds, and I'm talking about people, not the government, not, those kinds of people. I'm talking about regular people, and see what's going on, what their ideas are, what solutions they might come up with, and what we can come up with together. I think it might be a good idea. That 47 people in that room did a lot of good work that we could have probably worked on more and never got the chance to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And please hold that thought as we have to talk about our subcommittee meetings as well. So I think there would be great opportunity for us to revisit that. If you have your hand up and did not intend to have your hand up anymore, please make sure you take that down so that I can keep up.
Is my hand down?
Yours is down. Sorry. Yes, a couple other, but yours is down. Debbie Crockett.
I'm sorry, Ms. Griffith. I don't know if mine is still up or not.
Who is this speaking?
Shanika?
No, yours is not up anymore.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Crockett, yours was up.
Okay, yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with that mute button. Okay, thank you very much. So this, actually, I had said earlier I had 2 points, and I realized on the second on the agenda was this issue. So this is point number 2. And point number 2 has two subparts. So the first is I'd like to share another joint statement that came out. It came out on June 4th, and this is a joint statement from the voluntary bar associations. And you guys might say, well, why is all this lawyer stuff? Here's why I think this statement is very important. Because this is not only from the Hillsborough County Bar Association, but also the George Edgecombe Bar Association, which is the African American bar. Also the Hillsborough Association of Women Lawyers, the Tampa Hispanic Bar Association, of course, the Asian Pacific American Bar Association of Tampa Bay, the Florida Muslim Bar, the North Tampa Bar Association, the Florida Association of LGBT Lawyers and Allies. So all together put out a joint statement that says quickly the following. They all together express their collective or our collective concern regarding the recent events in Minneapolis, Tampa, and other communities, stemming in part from the historical issues of racial injustice and inequality in our nation. We likewise express our collective resolve and commitment to promote equal justice under the law for all citizens as espoused in the United States and Florida constitutions. We recognize the the difficult task of law enforcement officials and officers, and we salute the great majority who serve bravely with integrity and fairness. But we recognize that the duties to serve and protect are not always applied equally, and particularly to the Black community and other people of color. We support the opportunity and freedom of individuals to assemble peaceably and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Nevertheless, we implore our communities to do so peacefully, without violence, in pursuit of the common objective of liberty and justice for all. It remains our hope that throughout thoughtful and peaceful protests, committed leadership, and necessary reforms, we can begin to heal the hurt in our hearts, our families, and our communities. We issue this statement with renewed resolve to continue efforts to engage in dialogue, to promote fairness and equity, and move onward together, united in peace, understanding, and care for each other. So I can send this also to Zulika. I can send this over to you so that way you can share it with everybody. But I thought that kind of sums up, I think, the feelings of at least the attorneys who are part of those voluntary bar associations who represent most of, if not all of us here on this committee and the communities we are here representing. The second point I need to point out, or I need to bring attention to, is, as you know, even in Tampa during the protests, there was some destruction of property that happened, unfortunately, here, actually not far from where I live. In particular, there was an Asian business that was affected. Next to that Champ's shoe store that was burned, also there was the Saigon Bay Vietnamese restaurant that was also destroyed by that fire. And that's the one on Fowler Avenue. I understand, I don't know them personally, but I understand also from reading in the news that obviously Asian American owned, Vietnamese American owned, and they've started a GoFundMe to try and rebuild and reopen. But I think that begs the question that we talked about, that we've tabled for the time being, that's next on the agenda, is what can we do, both as individuals, leaders in our community, and within this community, to move forward to try to heal together and make some positive change. And so I'm looking forward to that part of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perry, did you mean to have your hand up?
You are muted.
Okay, thank you. Melissa Braswell.
Hi, this is Melissa Braswell. I just wanted to state, as the European Caucasian also, I've had many people within the community reach out to me also that want to have those uncomfortable conversations as fellow Caucasians, asking me how they can help be an ally and how they can help have a safe space to help their people of color, friends, neighbors, coworkers. The best that I can do is explain to them, to help their friends, their neighbors, their coworkers. They don't want to be offensive in any way, shape, or form. So I give them some books to read, some podcasts to listen to. And they're just looking also, I told them that we were going to be having a meeting and that we might be discussing this, that we might have some avenues for them to be able to utilize to create safe spaces to have these uncomfortable conversations that they truly are wanting to learn and find within themselves that maybe they haven't had it right, and want to learn and be a advocate the best way that they can without being offensive, and be a good neighbor and a good coworker. So I'm open to any suggestions how I can help be that advocate to those people that have been reaching out to me. So any way, shape, or form that I can help, I want to be able to be that person. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. And I would be willing to share with Zuleika some resources that I have been sharing professionally, and then she can pass it on to the group as well to distribute as you see fit. I do want to acknowledge that as the chair, obviously I have my role of organizing and facilitating the meeting, but I do also recognize that I have been appointed to this council as a member of the African American community. And the impact of this situation has hit me personally. It's hit me professionally as a diversity and inclusion consultant and practitioner, and also as someone who works at the university and addresses bias incidents. I have been overwhelmed with contact and conversations from personal and professional relationships of people wanting to just kind of be in that space and have those conversations. So I encourage you all to have them. But I wanted to make sure that I shared something that happened recently to someone close to me. So in one of my organizations, I am in a historically Black sorority and in a chapter in Tampa. And one of my sorority sisters shared this yesterday. She has a wonderful son who is 18 years old, just graduated from Tampa Prep, and will be going to college in the fall on a basketball scholarship. One of the sweetest kids ever, but I will say doesn't matter to this situation. Yesterday morning at 6 a.m., as he was traveling on his bicycle to the gym, preparing for his career, his time as a basketball player, a college basketball player, he's so dedicated to his craft. He got on his bicycle at 6 a.m. to go to the gym, and a white, I will acknowledge, racist man pulled his car in his path and got out the car and said to him, You think I do not know what you're doing? Breaking into cars, breaking into houses, and looting. I know you have something in your bag. While this man did that, he also had a gun in his hand. He terrified this young man, and he called the police. And HCSO, I believe it was, showed up, because I believe they live in the county and not the city. 5 vehicles showed up, 6 a.m. for this young man on a bicycle headed to the gym. And the officers, I will commend, apologized to him for his experience. And they took him home to his mother, absolutely hysterical and fearing for his life. This is real. This is real. This is happening to people all over, and it's a bigger issue than we've been willing to acknowledge. And I encourage all of us to talk to those intolerant people in our lives and address it, because it's gotten way out of control. I know that people talk about this is not new, it's just televised. And we can say all of that stuff, but none of that excuses it. Our kids are scared. Our community members are scared. We are scared. Not just, Black people. There are white people that are scared for the people that they love. And I think that I honor all of you that have decided to use your voice as citizens of Hillsborough County and be a part of this. And I default to you as I move forward to the next item of the agenda to ask you, what is our vision as a council for what we plan to do for our community in 2020? What are our goals? What do we need to do? Because we are the ones that are being called to talk to our commissioners and speak on behalf of what is happening. And Marshal Min has shared with us some ideas, and I recognize that we have had some challenges connecting and having our subcommittee meetings, but I think this is the fire that we need to really make sure we start sticking to those things. So what are we deciding we want to do? What are we going to do next? What are your interests on behalf of the Diversity Advisory Council for our community, and what is our work going to be doing? Jamal Abadi, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I give any ideas, which I have a few, I have a question. So as I was reading over the duties of this council, my main question is, and it relates to the subcommittee idea, and then also it answers the question that we heard in the beginning of this meeting. If we are the council that's formed to advise to our county commissioners, and regardless of political affiliation and where they stand, is it not our duty as a council to, when troubled times like this, to where we form think tanks or strategic think tank, go back to our respective communities? Because I think we all agree, and we've all stated that we are all in this together, regardless of what community, or if it's African American or Muslim American or Asian American. When this is affecting one of our communities, it's affecting all of us. So I would imagine that if we were to get a subcommittee together, that together we can all come up with some type of creative ideas to where we not just think, because it's incredible, the protests and the people standing up and coming together, that's happening. But for our community, for the Hillsborough County, Tampa community, if we come up with strong, realistic situations or solutions and present it to the county commissioners, I think that's how we can represent our communities and try to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abadi. I wanted to interject a little bit to co-sign to what he's saying. And I'm just going to share briefly because I do know we will have citizens watching this meeting, and I want to make sure that they have access to understand exactly what we've been tasked with. So per our strategic plan, I know we are working to revise it, but the one that we're working off of now, the mission states, the purpose and mission of the Diversity Advisory Council is to ensure that the diverse needs and ideas of Hillsborough County residents are identified and communicated to government, organizations, and the community at large in a timely manner so that their interests can be addressed without increasing the size of county government. The vision, this council will be the go-to place for a cultural or ethnic group within Hillsborough County. The DAC will be their ears to hear the problem, their mind to consider the problem, and their voice to seek a solution from the BOCC. And our guiding principles. In fulfilling the mission and vision, the DAC will use the following guiding principles when advising the BOCC. Members will also use these guiding principles when organizing or participating in events within the community. The first one is promote an inclusive environment for all members of the community. The second one, foster collaborative and cooperative integration that promotes awareness across different cultures. Number 3, doing the most we can within the mandated scope of local government. Number 4, an unrelenting quest to advocate for the rights of all diverse groups of the community. Number 5, and adhere to the motto, as I am human, all things human are common unto me. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Marshal Min, you're recognized.
Well, obviously, I had started this with the summit. I think the summit that we had, as I said, was in a different time. It was a lot less stressful, and we didn't have COVID to deal with either. But what we wound up doing is we had gotten a committee together who selected the questions and brought the questions that were going to be worked on, and then brought it to the council for the council's approval. The questions now would be different than the questions we had then because of the time and what's going on. But I think that if we could even do something where we did it in different areas, like smaller events in different areas, like I live in the Bloomingdale area. So maybe we could get together some of the groups in the Bloomingdale area and put it out and have some kind of meeting that way, rather than we did it at USF, and we did it encompassing all of Hillsborough. So with things the way they are and the virus and everything else, that might be better to do small groups and then bring it back and see how the statistics run. The biggest problem I think that I got at that time, the quote was, well, let's see if something happens out of this one because things don't normally happen. And that's exactly what happened because of the change in the council. But they were waiting because what we had decided was we were going to try to get together back in 6 months. And after we had looked at all the different issues and had a different kind of meeting, brought everybody together and said, this is what we found the statistics to be. Which are we going to work on first? Or how are we going to, which group are we going to work on first? But with things the way they are, maybe it should be brought down to a more local level and each of us take an area that's familiar to us and see if we could put together some kind of, video type of Zoom type of thing and bring the statistics back, use the same questions in all areas and so forth and so on. So a committee would need to be gotten together, unless you want to use the events committee, that would be fine as well, and work on that issue. That's my main thing. I'm sure there are other things and other ways that we could work in the community, but that's the one that I feel brought the most in the past to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will revisit that in just a moment because I want to get everybody's hands down so we can find out who's going to be on your committee. So I'll get through the other statements first. And then once I have all the hands down, then we can figure out who actually wants to be on the committee. Vice Chair Janeski?
Hi, Matthew Janeski here. So I had a similar idea along those lines. So I've been seeing, especially, in the time of coronavirus, when, everything's virtual, a lot of people are doing virtual town halls. And I was thinking that could be something that we could do, have it over Cisco WebEx or some kind of similar platform. And, every week have a different subject. So I was thinking, you could have like a business and diversity town hall where we invite, the presidents or CEOs of the various chambers of commerce in the county. So you have like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Diversity Chamber of Commerce. And, you can talk about how diversity impacts their businesses, how their businesses have been, affected by coronavirus and everything that's happening right now. You could have something on, civics and diversity, where you could bring in elected officials to talk about policymaking in this time and how, people can get engaged in the civic process and advocate more successfully for, where they're standing on issues. We could have a town hall on criminal justice and diversity, and we can talk about, the ways the criminal justice system affects different communities differently. You could have something about arts and entertainment and diversity. So I'm thinking you could have, these different town halls where you bring in, leaders in Hillsborough County, advocate to the public, say you can come to these town halls, you can ask questions, they'll answer questions, and we kind of sit there and facilitate and moderate the town hall. And then at the end of it, we can, using all the information that we've absorbed, bring that back home to us and, use that more effectively for us in choosing, our plans going forward, which kind of moves me. My next thing is, as chair of the strategic planning subcommittee, I think, so much has happened that, we need to reevaluate, the strategic plan, and pivot, and see, how more, I feel like it was more passive before. And I think, there's a way for us to be more active within the confines of our jurisdiction as a council under the Board of County Commissioners. I think, it's going to be a delicate balance seeing what we can do within those confines. But I think, right now the strategic plan is a little too passive for everything that's happening. And I think, we owe it to all of our communities to be more outspoken. And I think that our strategic plans, that ground zero foundation for how we can lead this council into the future and be able to more actively support our various communities. And then I think, I'm not sure how plausible this is, but I think a basic first step that we can do is speak with one of the county commissioners or bring somebody from staff from the county Board of County Commissioners to one of our meetings to talk about what's happening, what the BOCC is doing, because while it's within our jurisdiction to talk to our communities and bring what they want to the BOCC, I think, we can work vice versa as well. And, we can see, go online and, see what the BOCC is doing, see their statements and whatnot. But I think, it's something different to have them come here. We can do it virtually and, talk about, what is the BOCC doing, answering our questions. And then we can bring what they're talking about to our communities. Because, at the end of the day, between coronavirus and, people out there, fearing for their lives and for their prosperity and for the well-being, at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of people aren't going on and going to the BOCC's website or their social media and saying, what kind of statements did they put out today? I think, as leaders in our communities, we are able to more effectively bring what's happening in the BOCC to our communities. And I'm hoping that we have a role to play with that and facilitating that kind of conversation in the future. So I'm hopeful that we are able to have that conversation with either a county commissioner. I understand they're very busy nowadays between, everything happening, or a staff member of a county commissioner. And so we can more effectively have an open dialogue.
Thank you very much. And I know that Mr. Coleman is probably very nervous to hear what I'm coming up with. But I also think to that same point, I'm eager to hear from our county commissioners how we can better support them. Because there was something that I had shared offline with Mr. Coleman. I was just concerned about how the county commissioners were being treated during the emergency policy group meetings, and Commissioner Miller even shared, several of them shared, they got some really unkind communication from citizens that said some things that were just should not have been said. And they are our leadership, but they are also our neighbors. And I would be interested to know, how can we better support them in their roles so that things like that are not happening as often. So if the staff can help us flush that out a little bit to see if we can get someone to come and give us some guidance and contribute to the conversation a little bit, I think it would be greatly appreciated. Ms. Minatello, did you have something to add on Mr. Janeski's statement? Okay. Are you unmuted? Hold on. You're still muted. Got it. Okay.
Am I on now?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Kemp has been out there on the front lines constantly. She was out helping deliver food to people and so forth. She's been very much out there, and I think she might be a possibly one who would come and speak with us and speak candidly with us. Mr. Coleman, do you have any idea that might happen?
We could definitely request that if that's the pleasure of the council to have a commissioner. We could definitely invite them to come and tell them what the subject matter is and see.
And maybe ask some questions of them, and so we know where they stand as well. That would be really cool. The other thing that I wanted to say is that I think Matthew has some really good ideas, but right now we're in the midst of police brutality and all that stuff that's really right up in front of us. And if we start talking about the arts and things like that, that's the long-term purpose. What we need to do now is we need to be part of trying to get some civility back and helping in that respect, and bringing what we can find out back to the BOCC and see what their thoughts are when we get the statistics and everything. At the last one, my group that I was facilitating, it was a lovely Black woman who sat there and said, I don't know if this is going to matter, but you know what? Our Black community doesn't want anything to do with other communities. And they weren't just talking about white communities, they were talking about all. We want to be within ourselves, because every time we step out, we feel that we're not getting what's fair. And that hit me so hard, that there's a whole big community out there who thinks that they have to stay within themselves. And she was from one of the groups, and she spoke very clearly on it. She says, you can invite them, you can do, and they'll come, but they won't come, with an open heart. So to me, that's a big challenge. And I think that's something that we might want to look into as time goes on. But okay. That's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Coleman, I know that I don't see you right now. Is he still on? Oh, there he goes. He's still on. Just a quick question for you. You said that we could invite a commissioner. Would we be looking at inviting them to an actual DAC meeting, or would we be looking at having an offline meeting for the DAC with a commissioner, or several?
Better.
That's a good question. I mean, we could request, we have to do a letter, form a letter to invite them to a meeting, and you need to decide what meeting you want first. You want the offline meeting first and invite them to, and then maybe later, if you feel comfortable that it can be a collaborative meeting at a general meeting, you can do another invitation and see the commissioners that will accept an invitation to come to speak to the group as a whole. I don't think we have never had, since the inception, where a commissioner has, maybe the exception of maybe with the exception of Kevin Beckner when we first started,
Yes.
maybe have come to a council meeting to talk to the group as a whole. But since that time, we have not had any invitations from the DAC to any invitation to the DAC from a commissioner or vice versa. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's something we could possibly do. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion for that after I get these next three statements, so we can decide how we want to move forward with that idea. Debbie Crockett?
Hi, this is Debbie Crockett. Thank you. I just had a question. Would it make more sense, and to Mr. Coleman's point, that we go to a county commission meeting and get on the agenda instead? I'm not sure.
I think it would be the pleasure of the group. The only thought that I have is when we go to the county commission meetings, it's not an opportunity for us to have a conversation. So I would be interested in an opportunity for us to actually have a conversation, to hear from them what they're looking for from us, and also share with them some thoughts, so we know we have a little bit more direction. So that's why I was thinking something like that. Melissa Braswell?
Hi, it's Melissa, but I'm actually, Angela can't figure out how to raise her hand. So Angela Birdsong wants to speak.
Thank you very much. Angela Birdsong.
All right, this is Angela Birdsong. And unfortunately, I have not been able to meet with my Caribbean brothers and sisters. All of our events have been canceled, including our monthly meeting with the Caribbean Cultural Association. But I have been working with the Democratic Black Caucus. And I think when it comes to things that white folks can do, number one, you can walk with your dollar. And if you buy Black, that helps a lot. Even if you're going to purchase something like a vehicle, you can ask, do you have an African American available that could assist me? And I think we just have to get used to, if you're buying something, think about how you could actually support the minority community. The other thing is how you vote. And I also wanted to say that it would be really a good idea if we had some kind of connection with the Hillsborough Board of County Commission. I know they divvy out the different commissioners on what meetings they're going to attend, and if we could somehow get them even like once a quarter to attend one of our meetings. But I would like to open up some kind of line of communication with them. And I love the town hall idea.
Thank you.
That's what I want to say.
Melissa Braswell, did you still have something, or okay? And then we have Norma Hemming.
Yes, thank you, Chair Griffith. This is Norma Hemming. I had some points, but now listening to everyone, I would have to agree with Marcia, and also want to get back to the comments made from Ms. Ireland in the beginning that we read out loud, and kind of try to focus us on Hillsborough County and what can we do here. And just what you shared earlier, Chair Griffith, with respect to your friend's son and the fear. I mean, we're so far on the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs here when it comes to safety, that has to be addressed before we can go into, preferences. And I think that is something where we can really bring ourselves in. This morning, I attended a press conference by the Hillsborough County NAACP specifically dealing with demands or requests, or whatever you want to call them, that they're making to the Tampa Police Department. I think speaking to the leadership there, or any suggestions you have, but taking that concept, and it's not only police brutality, it also has to do with the school system. It has to do with the school to prison pipeline, economic justice, just like what Angela was just saying about, how to create equity for everyone. Those points that were made this morning, I thought were very good. Maybe we can try to take those and translate them into the county sphere. And I understand that the county commission is in charge of the sheriff's budget. And I think that might be something where, and I'm not one of those persons that says, oh, defund the police completely. But there are, I hate that word because it conveys this ripping out of all funding from the police. And I think that's just really destructive for what it really means. And it really means creating avenues and giving a voice to those organizations with the county commission that have these really, really good ideas. And I was very inspired this morning by what I heard. And just wanted to share that. Also, this recent decision that the emergency commission, emergency COVID emergency task force made regarding the employees who are not protected from firing if they choose to wear masks. Again, that affects the lower income jobs. That affects a lot of the African American community. I've heard from the Fight for 15 folks that they're afraid, working at McDonald's because they're not allowed to wear a mask, and they may be taking care of an elderly family member at home. So those are the kinds of things that I think need to be brought to the attention of our commissioners, and maybe they can pass an ordinance saying, you can't fire people if they choose to wear a face mask and want to protect themselves at work. So I think, whatever we can do, take some of the really, really good ideas that we're hearing and shaping them and bringing them up to the county commission.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ellie, did you have something for the group?
Yeah, I just wanted, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that the group understands that these are all great ideas, but I just want to make sure you understand that the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, we do not oversee the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. The Board of County Commissioners does funds, and so does the state. Everybody funds them. It's like a 3-tiered thing. But we do not, the sheriff in that office, he is elected by the people, and we do not have any say in, we don't oversee it. Mike Merrill doesn't oversee it. The Board of County Commissioners don't oversee it. So I just want to make sure everybody kind of knew that before we start in that direction, that we're going to start having the BOCC over.
Yes.
They won't do it. It's not legally, you're not legally able to do that.
So sorry, even the budgeting. Sorry, Ellie.
The budgeting, we do see their budget. We do contribute to their budget, but I believe that's done by statute.
Oh.
And I think that when the sheriff comes, I think he also puts in like an item to ask the Board of County Commissioners for certain things. I don't know the whole, I'm not involved in that legislative side at this point. Albert, do you have anything to add? Can't hear you.
Okay, I think you explained it well. The budget office pretty much, work with the sheriff's office. We get funds in from the state for law enforcement, and the sheriff is primarily responsible for the operation and the policies and the procedures there. And so when he makes his presentation to the board, he's basically telling them what he plans to do in terms of law enforcement based on the money that has come down from the state for law enforcement for the Hillsborough County. So there's not a lot of oversight in terms of operation that the county administrator or the board gives them policies of how to operate from a day-to-day basis. So we have very little conversations about their operations.
Thank you very much. I think our space is to contribute to the conversation surrounding HCSO operations. And I think, we have the public comment. If we move forward with some of these events and activities we want to do, we can get more feedback from the citizens in order to contribute to that dialogue with the sheriff's office. So I still think there's some opportunity there, but I do appreciate staff recognizing that our understanding of oversight needs to be clear and what that conversation looks like. Okay, last few comments, because I want to make sure that we're sticking to the agenda, but I also don't want us to forget what we need to be voting on before it's too late. So, Jamal Abadi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jamal Abadi. I just wanted to share a quick idea, and first of all, I just want to recognize that I've heard phenomenal ideas, and I think it shows the potential of what we could do if we all put our heads together. The idea I want to share was recognition, because Ms. Sabrina, the story that you shared, it was incredibly powerful. And I think one of the, as a Muslim American, I could tell you, like with stereotypes, and we all experience stereotypes, you always hear the community saying, well, that's a very, very minute few when we hear stereotypes. I think the same can be said to police officers, and the same could be said to the county commissioners. The same could be said, on and on. And I think it's very important that we recognize the few, like the cops that in that story be recognized, or the Tampa mayor, or the police chief that was walking alongside protesters. You hear it on the news for a few days and then it goes away. The idea I wanted to share is, has this group in the past ever put out awards for certain situations? And that being said, I really like the ideas by Matthew with the, and I don't know if this is if we do discuss that, if it's something futuristic or if it's something in the near future, but the same can be said with all the ideas that he had with all the town halls. We could have awards for each town hall or each group that he had mentioned that had supported diversity or had done something that would stand by what we believe and we discuss. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds like another programming idea we should throw on the table with the One Hillsborough event planning team. Okay, Marshal Min.
Am I on? No.
Oh, you don't need it? Okay, you can take your hands out then. Okay. Okay, and Melissa Braswell. You're still on mute, Melissa.
Sorry.
Yeah,
okay, this is Melissa Braswell. I just have a quick question. As the DAC, are we stepping over bounds if we have an idea of building a relationship with our sheriff and our state attorney? Because they're the ones that have the tremendous power in our community to build those relationships and trust with the public.
I guess I would ask, what does that look like? Because I think as a citizen board, we have a relationship with every county entity. So what would you be looking for in that?
Well, I know that a lot of the issues that I hear every day are the frustrations and the accountability and the trust issues. And I know I've heard our current sheriff talk about the training that he has put forth, and he feels like that, he still needs more training and just trust out in the community. And if we as the DAC, because we represent all of these different groups, if we were part of that trust where, I, as a Caucasian person, people keep asking me, well, I don't know how to be part of that process, where we build that bridge between the different entities of Hillsborough County. Like, why did that gentleman stop that young man? You know what I mean? Like, how can we be part of that process to build the trust between the community, people of color, and the other entities that are causing the mistrust, is what I'm trying to say. Does that kind of make sense? Like,
I think it does. I think that we start that by, again, having those conversations with the citizens and finding out where those areas of distrust are, what they stem from, and how do we better advocate for them. So I think your what I'm hearing in your thoughts and your suggestion is maybe that's a long term. Once we get this feedback, we can start having those conversations, and if we can contribute to the ongoing development of our county agencies in different ways, we'll have that information.
Right. And just holding each other accountable and building that trust in the community between each represented group here.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you.
And I do want to acknowledge, I think we have done a very good job respecting each other's space and identity groups and learning from each other. So I do think we have some great opportunity ahead of us. Norma Hemming. Oh, sorry. Wait, Norma, if I can have Ellie speak first, because usually staff has something in that moment. Ellie, yeah.
Sorry. Okay, I was thinking it might be even a good idea for us to invite the sheriff to come and speak to this group.
Yes, I was going to suggest that too when we got to
I can reach to Sheriff Condister's office and ask and see if he can participate in one of our next meetings.
Okay.
In fact, I hate to use the word strike while the iron's hot, but we should do it now. I'll say, listen, we got a group, he might be willing to do it, maybe at our next meeting if he's available.
Okay.
So I will reach out to the sheriff's office.
Okay. For the purposes of Robert's rules, can I get a motion and a vote to approve Ellie moving forward with contacting the sheriff to request his participation at our next meeting?
I make a motion that Ellie Rodriguez contact the sheriff's office and try to get the sheriff to come to our next meeting.
That is Marshal Min. Motion made.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. And Mr. Janeski, Vice Chair Matthew Janeski.
I second the motion.
Second. Okay. It has been moved that Ellie Rodriguez, our staff person, contact the sheriff's office to potentially have the sheriff or a representative come to our next meeting. And seconded by Vice Chair Janeski. Is there a question? Yes.
Can I amend that motion to also have an invitation sent out to the state attorney's office, Mr. Warren's?
Yes. Marshal Min, are you okay with that amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. So from the amendment, it's been moved and properly seconded that we will have staff reach out to the sheriff's office and the state attorney's office to request their presence at our next meeting so that we may address them and ask the questions that we have of them in their various roles and areas of in the community. Are there any questions? I see some hands up. If you have your hand up, but you don't have a question, can you please put your hand down? Okay. Mr. Perry, do you have a question?
I'm having problems trying to navigate your system. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I'm just having problems. This platform is really different for me, so trying to navigate it has been kind of causing some problems. I support what we're doing as far as bringing the sheriff out. One point I want to add to that is something we need to think about. I thought I'd never say this as a retired military person. We need to talk to him about rules of engagement. Rules of engagement is only used in military, but at this point, because of the approach that oftentimes law enforcement has been moving out, we do need to use that language. Example, the young man, rules of engagement. Do you need to have 5 cars show up for one person on a bicycle? And then the other thing is a whole thing of the use of force. But I like the idea of having a sheriff, but collaborating with the sheriff to also talk to other police chiefs within Hillsborough County. So when we're bringing him, that we're looking at collaboration throughout law enforcement throughout Hillsborough County. We also have the law enforcement in the schools, and then USF itself has law enforcement, and then the VA also has law enforcement folks. So I want to make sure that we understand what we have within our county when we're having a conversation. And there's probably a couple other law enforcement that I forgot. Wildlife and a couple other folks, gun toting bags folks that we need to bring to the table to have a conversation with. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And should the motion pass, we will make sure that all of the council members have an opportunity to draft up their own questions, and we'll come together as we move forward. Marshal Min, did you have your hand raised? No? Okay. So are we ready for the vote? Oh, sorry. Norma Hemming, you had your hand raised?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to have the motion reread regarding the time, because my concern is that if we don't have a conversation about our asks and the things that we kind of want to do or ask them to do, and then, that it might be premature to invite them, or what is the purpose of these meetings just to start a dialogue and then send the asks later? I would just want to know is this for one of the next meetings right away? Because I don't want to spend our time and their time basically getting a nice campaign speech about how they're doing everything right, but we don't really have any concrete requests regarding, for example, a citizen oversight board or quarterly meetings with citizens, and we don't really know what the NAACP has asked them to do. Do we want to do it this soon, or do we want to wait a little bit and get our asks straight before? That would be my concern.
I would be interested in knowing what the council feels would be best. I think in my mind, I believe I have some idea of what my identity group is looking for. And my concern would be if we push it out too far, in order to gather information, we will lose a bit of that momentum.
Okay.
But I'm definitely open to the interests of the membership. So does anyone else have any thoughts on the timeline for this conversation? Ms. Braswell?
I think that we need to jump on this now because of the impact that it's having right now in our community. And I think that we need to see if they're available for our next meeting. That's just my personal opinion. I also have about 3 or 4 ideas because they are the leaders of the community, in Hillsborough County. And I think that they would be open to dialogue with us. And so I have some things that I would like to share with them as well. So I think if we wait, I think that opportunity may pass. That's just my personal thought on that.
Thank you very much. And staff can correct me if my understanding is wrong, but I do want to remind us, we have an opportunity to make statements and to decide as a council how we feel as an organized group. However, we are also here to represent our individual identity groups. So depending on the different topics of interest, we may have different needs on behalf of our individual communities, and that is okay as well. I think when we find that we have different needs and different concerns, that might not be a joint statement. It may just be, I need to speak on behalf of the Black African American community at this time, and other people don't have those same concerns, and that is more than okay. We still have Melissa Braswell and Norma Hemming's hands up. Do you have anything else? Okay, so are we ready for the vote? Yeah. All right. If Suleika, do you have that written down?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please just go ahead and read it?
Okay, the motion was for Ellie to contact the sheriff's office to come to the next meeting. The motion was made by Ms. Minutello, seconded by Mr. Janeski. Mr. Janeski then amended to also invite the state attorney's office to the next meeting.
So the motion is to have the sheriff's office and the state attorney's office come to our next meeting to answer whatever questions we have at that time and give us an opportunity to receive some information from them as well, of course. So you have heard the question. And I'm trying to remember what we decided yesterday, but all in favor, please go ahead and unmic yourself. So open your mic, please. All of our voting members, please take your mute off if you can.
Mr. Perry, you're still muted.
Yeah, trying to get him off as well. Okay. So all in favor, please raise your hand if you can and signify with a yay.
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 Okay, Zuleika, did you get that?
I got those, but I don't see Mr. Ramos, Ms. Karji, and Ms. Park.
Yes. Ms. Karji, let us know your vote.
Janelle Karji, yay.
Okay. Mr. Ramos?
That's a yay.
Okay.
That's a yay from here, Ramos.
And Ms. Park?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Opposed, same sign. Of course, seeing none, the motion carries. We will have Ellie contact the sheriff's office and the state attorney's office to attend our next meeting. If they are available, I have a representative attend as well. Thank you very much. So we have a few more things and we're getting past this part on our agenda. Mr. Perry, did you have a question?
No, I'm really struggling with trying to.
You're back on mute now. We can't hear anything you're saying right now. Okay, there you go. Now you're off mute.
Okay. All right. And I'm just trying to, I don't know how to get rid of this hand. I keep trying to do things to get rid of the hand.
Okay. Well, we'll figure that out. I say in the meantime, as long as you don't have a house party behind you, feel free to keep yourself off mute. And I don't think anyone will be bothered by that. All right, seeing no additional hands, we have a few more things. Yes. Marshal Min.
I'm sorry, I don't know where the hand is on and off. Just very briefly, we'll have a month to gather information from other people, to get our questions together. A month at this particular time should be good enough. Ellie, could you let us know as soon as you have some kind of confirmation so we'll know if that's what we have to do and if we will have somebody here at the next meeting?
Of course, I'll let Sabrina and everyone know. I'll send it to Zuleika to send out to you all.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
So this way we'll have a good few weeks to be able to gather up things that we need to ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next thing that we have to vote on is our meeting with the commissioners, our invite to the commissioners. So I am going to request a motion, and please consider, do we want to invite them to an open meeting or do we want to have an offline meeting when you make your motion? Vice Chair Janeski?
I would like to motion to create an offline workshop and invite the Board of County Commissioners to this offline workshop.
Can you explain offline, online?
Offline would be a separate meeting with just the council. So this would not be a public-facing meeting. We would just have to notify the public that we're having a meeting, correct, staff? Can we do that? I mean, it probably still has to be recorded, but it's kind of like going to be a subcommittee meeting.
This is Marshal Min. I second the motion.
Okay. I know Ellie and Mr. Coleman are trying to figure out if this is something we can do. How would we be able to do this? Ellie, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
I don't know, Albert, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see how that could happen with all the commissioners regarding sunshine law and not being able to have anybody participate.
Yeah, the meeting would have to be publicly noticed,
Right.
and other people would be allowed to come to that meeting.
Yes, it's not going to be private. It's not going to be a
Right.
private, because if you have more than one commissioner talking about the same subject, it can't be a private meeting.
So then it would solely be offline, as in not our regularly noticed DAC meeting. So a separate day or a separate time, so that we're not taking up the time of the monthly meeting to have this conversation. Is that what we're looking at?
Well, it sounds like Matthew's suggestion was to have a workshop. So yeah,
Yes. Okay.
he got his hand up. Let's see what he has to say.
As Vice Chair Janeski?
I was just concurring. Yeah, that's just a workshop. I'm completely fine with it being open to the public, but I don't want it, especially since everything is so time sensitive right now, I don't want it to consume one of our regularly scheduled meetings.
Okay. Sounds good. So it has been moved and properly seconded to have a workshop that, of course, according to Sunshine Law, will be noticed to the community and open to the community if people want to attend, during which we invite any of the county commissioners, as many as want to attend, to come and talk to us about some things of our interest and ways that we can support them in our roles as the Diversity Advisory Council. Are there any questions? Yes. Rosalie Smith? You're on mute. Yes, you're still on mute.
It's Rosalie Smith. I represent the Hispanic community. I just had a question about the workshop. Is it the workshops that Vice Chair Janeski had mentioned earlier, some of the ideas, or is this something different?
Vice Chair Janeski?
So the idea earlier was a town hall that would be more geared toward public leaders and whatnot. This would be just a workshop with self-volunteer Board of County Commission members who want to speak with us, and we can have, an open dialogue about what's happening with the county and how we can best support the county commissioners in, relaying information between our communities and the BOCC.
Thank you.
And I think there will be plenty of opportunity for us to have a subcommittee to help plan what that would look like and have an agenda. Mr. Perry? You're still on mute. We can't hear you. Okay, now you're off mute. Did you have something? Okay. Okay, are we ready for the question? Okay. All in favor of the motion on the floor to host an offline workshop, host a workshop with the county commissioners, inviting any and all county commissioners that can attend, not to be held on a regular scheduling meeting date? Please signify by raising your hand and saying
Aye.
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 Did you get everyone? And we're going to ask for the people who are not on video. Janelle Cargi.
Aye.
Okay. Lesstm Ramos.
Aye.
Okay. And Nan Pak.
Aye.
Okay. Did we miss anyone? Okay. As seeing that we did not miss anyone, I can say all opposed, same sign, of course. So motion carries. We will move forward with working on that invitation. I do need us to secure a date. So is the interest, Vice Chair Janeski, is the interest in putting together a subcommittee first to determine that, or you already have something in mind for the date of this event? Because we need to get the invite out.
I would say within the month of June, this would need to occur. I'm not sure. I don't think we have logistically enough time to put together a subcommittee and have them meet and then come up with something. So I think it would be preferable to have have us choose a date at this meeting right now And so that way we're able to adequately plan for the meeting, for the workshop.
I do believe, I recognize the urgency. And again, I'm big on capturing the momentum. I question how many commissioners we can get in the month of June, as we're already at the 10th. So I would be open to considering July, if that's an option.
Should we aim maybe for July 6th, which is the first Monday of July?
I see Debbie Crockett, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Yes, I think we need to be at least 30 days out, at least at a minimum. I'm sure their calendars are already booked up with meetings and things. And while I agree we should strike while the iron is hot, also the idea is to have a good audience and good attendance. So trying to schedule it too soon, I don't think will give us enough time to advertise, to get people who have schedules open to attend. And I do think July 6th is too close to the July 4th holiday. I mean, I know I'm not going anywhere, but there are other people who are maybe on vacation or whatever. I don't know where they're going to go, maybe the beach. So I don't think that's a good week either. I'm not trying to be negative Nancy, but I really think it needs to be at least 30 days out. So I think we should be looking at the end of July.
Okay. I have other hands up. Oh, well. Okay, Vice Chair Janeski.
So I would say, political expediency. I mean, we don't want to talk about politics with this, but everything is politics. And elected officials are going to be a lot more responsive the sooner we act because of everything happening. They want to show their constituents that they're going above and beyond and trying to engage communities. I would agree that, with that being all said, I like to always strike when the iron's hot. So maybe June is a little bit too early, and maybe perhaps July 6th. So I would say, another good one would be July 13th or 14th, which would be over a month from today. And it would also be just a couple days before our next meeting. So the dialogue that we have would be fresh in our minds, and we can talk about at our next meeting what we've heard at that workshop. So I would, argue that the 13th or 14th would be preferable. I think if we wait to the end of July, it might not be, something that is a high priority anymore. I mean, who would have thought that this would be coming up in the first place? So I'm not sure where everyone's minds will be at the end of July. I would say, mid-July might be ideal.
Okay. Marshal Min, you recognize?
Yeah. I was wondering, Mr. Coleman, if in your experience, if we do something like this, how many commissioners do you think are going to attend, if any?
That's not fair. It's not fair for you to put me on the spot like that, to ask a question like that.
I'm sorry.
So that's hard to say.
I know, especially it's also coming up on vacation.
This council has never really invited the entire board for what you are suggesting. Not to say it cannot happen. This is the election year. A lot of things are changing. The climate has changed. There's a lot of sensitive issues that's on the table, and you may have commissioners more compassionate to talk to a council like the diversity group, because this is a diverse conversation. So it's hard to say. The only thing that we can do as staff, and the only thing you can do as council members, is to invite them and to see how they respond to the invite. And it's going to be very important how you craft the language of the invitation. I don't put that on staff. I think you guys should decide what that invite looked like and what you're trying to glean from them in attending the meeting. They don't want to be set up to come to an event and get bombarded with gunshots. I mean, not literally, but people just shooting them down about things that they're unhappy about. So you have to really be careful of how you craft the invitation and what you want to gain from it. Because the first question probably will be on their mind, what's the objective? And I think everybody at the council table now know what your own personal objective or your objective is related to the population of the category that you represent. But then when you get a commissioner there, he's responsible for his whole, this district as well as the whole county. So it's very diverse within itself. So he has to decide where he stands on the issues there. So it's going to be hard to say who's going to come. The time is going to be important too. What time of the day we're going to do? Morning, afternoon, or are you doing the night?
During their day?
I don't know. It's hard to say. Their days are busy, but it depends on the timeliness, how long the meeting is going to be. So you need the committee. Someone needs to think about all the parameters and what this format really looks like for us, because we as staff is the first time that we've done this.
And I'm more than comfortable with doing that in my role as chair. I think this is an opportunity for us to get some guidance from the county commissioners as to what they're looking for from us as a diversity advisory council. So I think it will be a great conversation to hear how they're expecting us to support the county and the citizens in this county. So I think I can definitely get you something in writing this week, as long as we have some guidance from the membership of what they're looking at. I don't really like to be vague because I want to abide by Robert's Rules of Order, but I'm kind of like, also, if we can just get some understanding from them, what works. If we give you a week of time, the week of July 13th, is there a time that several of you can attend? Is there a time of day that works better for people? But I also think for us, we probably need to know what we can do before we do that. So are we more available in the evening, or are we more available during the day? Is anybody not available for a meeting during the day?
The only day I have an issue is Monday.
Okay. So we would not be able to do a daytime meeting on Monday. Anyone else? And if you're not answering this particular question, please take your hand down. Okay. Debbie Crockett, you wanted to respond of the time. Oh no, you just took your hand down. Okay. Melissa Braswell, do you want to share what time works for you, day works for you, does not work for you?
I'm in contract negotiations with my company, so I have to be available. Long as I know ahead of time and we don't have any type of meetings going on, I can make myself available. So long as it's, I kind of know ahead of time.
Okay. Yes, and we'll have several weeks' notice, clearly.
Okay. And unfortunately, if the company decides at the last minute they want to meet, I just have to be available to them. They just haven't been doing that, so I'm usually good. So I just want to throw that out. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so what is our pleasure? We want to give staff some direction, and of course myself as I start drafting up this letter, this invitation. Vice Chair Janeski.
So I would like to motion to defer to Chair Griffith on drafting a letter to send out to the BOCC, as well as formally setting the time frame of that workshop to be the week of the 13th, excluding Monday. And I would like to defer all rights and responsibilities of setting that up to the pleasure of our staff and Chair Griffith for the purpose of expediency.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Jamal Abadi?
I don't know if this is an amendment or if this is in agreement, but first of all, I'd like to say I think Mr. Coleman stole my thunder a little, and I'm glad he did, because one of the things I wanted to emphasize, Madam Chair, is that when you do craft, you had mentioned the word support, which I thought was a great term to use in the invite, and also solution-based, or a unified solution workshop. And I agree with what Matthew said earlier, which was this is an election year, and I think especially right now when the iron is hot, I think it would motivate more each commissioner, especially if they heard solution-based, to come out and at least hear to see what we could do. So I'd like to amend, that that verbiage if possible. Thank you.
Oh, no need to amend. I'm just going to take that direction. I've already written that down. Is that a second?
I second.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions? Zuleika, did you get that? Okay. I have some.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Norma Hemming?
Yeah,
you had a question?
I just wanted to confirm that what I heard you say earlier is that you're going to write that letter and it's going to basically offer us as a resource to the county commissioners in their outreach to the communities also. Was that the idea?
This letter is our invite to them to the workshop.
Yeah.
That's what that is. The letter is the invite to the workshop.
Thank you.
Marshal Minatello? You're on mute.
It would be more like how we would want their support and what we can, in that vein, more in a positive vein. No, we want to ask you questions that are of importance today in that kind of way. But, we need your support with what's going on in the community and so forth and so on.
Yes.
That type of thing. That's fine. That's great.
Yeah, as I said, we really need their guidance. We want to know exactly what they want us to be doing as we're working on behalf of the citizens of Hillsborough County.
When I was on the first council, when it first started, that was exactly what our charge was. Our charge was to be there to help bring community concerns and to have the support of the council. So it's something that we really were supposed to be doing all along. So it should be good. It should be a positive thing for them to hear.
Thank you very much. Debbie Crockett?
Thank you. In that same vein, I think the message is really more we want to hear from them so we can take it back to our communities to share with them, with our communities, the message from our county commissioners. And then, of course, during that time, we'll ask questions as well. But maybe that's the message to them in the invitation.
Thank you. Melissa Braswell. Okay, great. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Are we ready for the question? Okay, all in favor of the motion to permit myself as chair to draft up the invitation, work closely with staff to invite commissioners to a workshop that will occur during the month of July, preferably the week of July 15th. Please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
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 Okay, and then Janelle Cargie.
Aye.
Lesstm Ramos.
Aye.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Any opposed, same sign. Okay. Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay.
Chairperson?
Yes.
Ms. Park, was it yay or opposed?
Ms. Pak raised her hand for yay.
Yay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry for the confusion.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
So I am going to suggest, because the next item on the agenda, as we're rolling through, is the subcommittee meeting scheduling. I'm going to suggest that we hold on that so that we have some information coming in from our community leadership, hopefully within the next month. And I think that can inform us in what we want to do for our events, unless Marshal Minatello wants to get that on the schedule, and that's okay. But definitely for our strategic plan, I think that's what Vice Chair Janeski was suggesting. We kind of get some information before we move forward with our strategic planning. So, Vice Chair Janeski?
I do want to say I want to hold off on a strategic planning meeting until we have met with these, these officials. I do want to put it on the table though of putting either together a subcommittee or whatever for the idea of the forums, the town halls. I think that, you know, it's very prudent right now to be discussing those types of issues. And I think that's something that's very popular with the public, and something we can capitalize on with coronavirus, you know, making everything virtual. I just want to put that on the table that I think that if we want to go forward with town halls, that should be done, something we should start planning sooner than later.
So then I would defer to Ms. Minatello, because her subcommittee is the one that's the event planning committee. And obviously we can sit on it. We can sit out if we're talking about certain things. But Ms. Minatello, if you want to get something on the agenda right now and give us a date for your subcommittee meeting, if you have that, you're on mute. You're still on mute. It's very sensitive. It's very, very sensitive. Okay, here you go.
There you go. Okay, June. Okay, I don't have a calendar handy at this point that I can see. But how would a meeting be for the, today is the second Wednesday of the month?
Yes, today's the 10th.
I'm sorry, how about the fourth Wednesday of the month?
The 24th?
Yeah.
The meeting the 24th, at what time?
6:30 if it works.
6:30, June 24th. Staff, can you help to establish that?
Available.
Pardon?
Available.
I can't. I couldn't tell who was speaking. Okay.
Angela Birdsong.
Yes. Yes.
I am not available the 24th of June.
Okay. Would you like to consider a different date?
Sure. How about the 23rd? It's a Tuesday.
The time, because I have the evening free.
6:30.
It'll be at 6:30.
That's good for me.
Okay. So 6:30, Tuesday, June 23rd, and staff will help to establish that virtual meeting.
Correct. Yes, we will.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So now we are at our announcements from council members section. And I know we all have different screens, but I'll just call out based on the names that I see. Nan Pak, do you have any announcements on behalf of your community?
Other than I told you about the sentiment from the Korean community, I really do not have any announcement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
My screen just changed order. Jamal Abadi, any announcements?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I already had the pleasure of saying a few announcements from the business perspective and affect how they were affected via COVID and the troubling times as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Marshal Minatello? None? Okay. Your hand is still up though. Just want to let you know. Angela Birdsong, any announcements? None? Okay. Debbie Crockett, any announcements? None? Thank you. Matthew Janeski?
No announcements.
Okay. Melissa Braswell?
No announcements.
Okay. Norma Hemming?
Nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Rosalie Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rosalie Smith, Hispanic representative. I hadn't really met with any members of the Hispanic community, obviously because of COVID, sitting at home for close to 80 days. And as we're getting back to work, as part of the Violence Prevention Collaborative, we've been doing virtual, a lot of town hall meetings, in for COVID-19 and how we're responding to, people that in the communities that we serve. But most recently, we had a town hall, which was based on serial testimony. We had community. It was a very small venue because of COVID guidelines. We could have only a certain number of individuals at the children's board this past Saturday. We had room for 50. About 90 people showed up. But this was something that was along the lines of our elected officials. Our collaborative is comprised of the elected officials that represent Hillsborough County, including the municipalities, mayors of the 3 cities, Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, including their chiefs of police and the sheriff. So we had serial testimony there with community residents, and what made this different is that I was the citizens talking. We had live polling happen. It was Facebook Live. And so people could vote on the issues that were brought to the table during that time live. So we had some good response on that. And as we move forward in the collaborative, we will continue to have these town halls. We're in the process right now of working on that action plan so that we can put that out to the community. So that's where we are. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Virgil Perry, any announcements? Thank you. Janelle Cargie, any announcements?
No.
Okay, and Lesstm Ramos?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. And I only have one on this coming Sunday, which is the 14th of June at noon. On behalf of the African American community, the Tampa National Pan-Hellenic Council, which is the organization of 9 historically Black Greek letter organizations, is going to be hosting a peaceful protest at noon in Curtis Hickson Park. So noon, Sunday, June 14th, there will be a peaceful protest by the 9 historically Black fraternities and sororities in the area. That concludes my updates. I see a few hands. Before we adjourn, Ellie?
I want to make sure that everybody here has been getting my press releases. I know sometimes they come in English and Spanish, so just ignore that part, because what I try to do is like sell them to different groups. So unless you can use them, but I just want to make sure everyone's getting them.
You've been doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Trying. Thank you.
Okay. Debbie Crockett?
I just have a question. I wanted to confirm the date of our next meeting. Did we change, and did I miss something? We're now on the second Wednesday, not the first?
My understanding is the date of the meetings is not changing. We were on this date because we had to coordinate with staff to actually get the opportunity to meet virtually.
Correct.
So as of now, we have on the schedule to meet on July 1st.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then Vice Chair Janeski?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Ellie, did you have something else? Okay, wonderful. All right, so we are at adjournment. If all hearts and minds are clear and there is nothing else for the good of the group, is there any opposition to adjourning? Seeing none, we adjourn by consensus. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time and your energy. Keep this same energy, and we look forward to seeing you again next month.
It was good to see everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.